That's a fantastic way to start your day. Thanks for doing that here. Glad to have you here on the program. Already zoomed in on me right here. It looks like a hostage video right now. You know, the lighting in this room, sometimes we're going to invest some of the multiple millions of dollars that we make every day on this show and get better lighting in here. It just varies on day to day. And yeah, that's all right. It's good to have you here. I don't mean to start off on a negative note. I just kind of looked at myself in the monitor and said, wow, I'm telling the truth. I promise you I am. I don't know where I was on that fateful night in Germany or wherever. Anyway, good to have you here on the program. The Papal Conclave is about to get underway. I have my phone on. It's on vibrate just in case they start voting on me. I'll know that I'm going to be heading off to Rome and become the great pontificator. I'm doubting it happens because I'm not Catholic, but, you know, just in case, it's kind of like when President Trump took office. I've kept my phone on vibrate and ever since, waiting for the call. And so far, it has not come to serve the Trump White House. So if the Vatican needs me, I might be available. Let me ask you, how much some of you are Catholic out there? And if you're out there on any of the platforms, wherever you're at, make comments. Love to hear from you this morning on this glorious day the Lord has made, Wednesday, the 7th day of May. Year of our Lord 2025. But let me ask you a question here is, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Roman Catholic out there, let me ask you, how much trepidation, how much anticipation are you feeling from the inside, from your perspective? This is your team making their draft pick. Let me ask you just so what runs through your head and what are your thoughts going into this thing? If you are not a Catholic today, what are your thoughts on this? I saw a friend that's a Mormon friend of mine posting that he hopes that the Catholics do a better job than the pseudo-Marxist, he called them, that they just chose the last time. And he hopes there's reformation and they will get back to more conservative views of their beliefs. So let me ask you just an inside baseball question. If you are a Catholic out there, how do you watch the conclave and how do you watch this whole happening differently than probably myself does? I'm watching it almost like a sporting event. Producer Chad are like, let's go watch and see when the smoke comes up, and we may smoke cigars and see if we can make our cigar smoke turn black or turn white or what have you. So anyway, just curious, comment out there if you are Catholic. Love to get your perspective on the papal conclave that begins here today. They're heading into the Sistine Chapel in a matter of hours. They will vote one time today, and then after that, they probably won't have a pope. You got to get 2/3 of the vote, and so after that, they will vote 4 times every day until somebody gets 2/3 of the vote. So I'm guessing the next couple of days we will have somebody that has become the next pontiff, and a lot of Protestants look at it as kind of more entertainment and just curiosity. If you're inside the church, you're inside the Catholic Church, I'd love to hear from you. How do you view the conclave differently than perhaps your Protestant friends? And just overall thoughts. So feel free to prognosticate and pontificate on that. All right, the conclave begins. Let me show you a photo. And I got a lot of news stories I want to get to, but I want to show you a photo of Donald Trump that caused some controversy, and I think Matt Walsh had some great comments on it. But a couple other stories we will cover today. There is some proof that I heard this morning, and I'm looking for his polling results, but pollster Mark Penn, who's a Democrat pollster, has proven that there's a Trump derangement syndrome, and I'm trying to find it, but he said it this morning that in some of his polling, he named out Trump policies. And if he named out just the policies and said, do you believe in this, and this common sense policies, then about 70 to 75% of Americans said, yeah, that's good. But when they said, hey, this is the Trump policy, do you like it? So they just put Trump's name in there. The number dropped down to the 52% level. So Trump derangement syndrome is alive and well. I'm diving for those numbers this morning, but I heard Mark Penn talk about that just recently, and I want to dive into what he discovered. Donald Trump's heading to Saudi Arabia next week, and I think Iraq as well. He's going all sorts of the Middle East. And I think the speculation is Donald Trump would not be going all that far if there was not something big that was being agreed to or some kind of conversation happening. Now, Trump did say yesterday, meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister, that he has a big announcement that will be made either Thursday or Friday or Monday before he leaves for Saudi Arabia. So he says a big announcement's coming. Could it be about a nuclear Iran and how everybody's going to join together to stop that? Could it be about oil and gas deal? I don't know. I don't know what the question would be. I have a feeling it has to do with Iran, but I'm not sure. A big announcement is coming, says Donald J. Trump. Let's see what. Oh, there's another meeting going to be happening, and this is going to affect the markets today. We can dive into this today in conversation. That Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said this coming weekend they will be gathering. He and some United States envoys will be gathering in Switzerland, and they're going to be waiting there for the Chinese. The Chinese are going to Switzerland. The United States is going to Switzerland, and evidently it's going to be the first talk of de-escalation. And getting past the latest conflict and the trade barriers and the trade tariffs, and they're going to start beginning the talk about, hey, let's have a talk tomorrow, the next day, or next week, but here's what we're going to talk about. So it's a talk about a talk. I'm guessing the markets will react to that. That is an announcement that came from Scott Bessent yesterday. Also, let me ease some of the panic and assuage some of your fears. There have been a lot of, I guess, every state is different. Every state issues their own license, driver's license, right? And so 20-something years ago, after 9/11, the commission came about and said, the 9/11 commission came about and said, we need a similar type of ID. And you need that kind of an ID that's uniform from state to state. And so for 20 years, over 20 years, states have been trying to figure out this thing. The private sector would have figured this out in 2 minutes. But states have taken 20 years, and they keep giving delays and say, well, we won't implement Real ID. We won't implement Real ID for another. Let's put it off another year. Put it off another year. Well, Kristi Noem comes in and says, let's been 20 years. And if you're a stupid enough state to not have implemented Real ID, then screw you. We're going to have to. This is about safety. The reason they put Real ID in place was because about safety after 9/11. So starting today, Real ID is required to fly. Now, they say that there's a grace period. If you don't have your Real ID, there's going to do some secondary screening and frisk you and maybe search your body cavity or two. But you're still probably going to make your flight today. But coming up in the next few weeks, it's going to be harder and harder. Now, I saw some people, producer Chad said his family, there's a family member that's in the TSA, and they were checking everybody's IDs at home and over a family dinner, go, yep, you're compliant, you're compliant. If you're in Colorado, where I am, they've been issuing Real ID compliant IDs since about 2012. So over 10 years. If you've gotten an ID, a driver's license in Colorado over the last 10, 12 years, you have a star. Now, people were controversial. Well, there's got to be a gold star. No, it's as long as it's a star. This gold star is like issued since 2020. The black star is before 2020, the 2012. So that's all it is. But if there's a star in the upper right-hand driver in Colorado, your ID, you're safe. And I think a lot of folks in Colorado already are. I've seen the numbers of millions of people that have renewed their ID since 2012. And so I think we're going to be okay here, but everybody's freaking out about it. Your state's going to have different guidelines, different rules on it, but today is the day that Real ID goes into place, and don't let fake news get you. You can still travel with a passport, the full passport. You can do that if you don't know if you have that Real ID. So if you're not sure, you might want to be traveling the next couple of days with your passport. But if you're in Colorado, where we started on the talk radio, and now we stream throughout the day on the podcast and now the streamcast, if you're out there in Colorado, you're probably good. If you're out of state, I'm not responsible for you, but be very careful. The Real ID kicks in today. All right, the Papal Conclave is kicking off. Oh, by the way, Steve Laffey comes up on the show today. It's been a few weeks since we had Steve Laffey because Steve has been traveling Europe, and he is back from the European Union, and he's back in the United States of America, the sovereign USA. And he'll be joining us at 8:30 this morning in the Mountain Time Zone, about 20 minutes from now. That would be about 10:30 in the Eastern Time Zone. So stand by. Steve Laffey, former presidential candidate, former mayor of Cranston, Rhode Island, former U.S. Senate candidate. You got the idea. He's a great guy. Been on my show for many years on the radio. Joins me here on the Streamcast. He'll be with me in just a bit as well. And you don't want to miss Steve Laffey. He always tweaks some of you up there, giving sometimes a contrarian or different perspective. But I like it, and I'm glad to have him on today. And we'll talk about various topics, catch up with Steve Laffey coming up in about 19 minutes now. We're 19 minutes and counting. All right, the Papal Conclave begins today. And about a week or so ago, President Donald J. Trump did what President Donald J. Trump is so good about. He put up a photo. He tweaked the media. And this, if you didn't see it, this is the photo that he put up. He tweaked the media. And there you can see Donald J. Trump all dressed up in his papal gear. And it was a joke in the media. He said, maybe I should become Pope. And then they had the Lindsey Graham tweeted out, said, oh, this would be great. We're going to have an American Pope, and President Trump's going to be the Pope and the leader of the free world. Well, the world's sort of freaking out. The media is sort of freaking out. And I started laughing. I even saw some people that I know that were freaking out, said, are you Catholic? Aren't you offended by this? And I mentioned this last week. If you're having to go out there and fish among your Catholic friends, you hate Donald Trump so much that you're having to go out there and tell aren't you offended? Tell me you're offended. Please tell me you're offended. Oh, God, tell me you're offended. You're just looking for someone to join you in your miserable state of mind. When you're having to approach a topic like that, please tell me you're offended. Doesn't this offend you? If it offends you, let them tell you. Don't try to milk it out of them like you're at a dairy farm. That's not what you're doing. But people will try to do the misery milk and try to milk you for some misery because you're miserable people. Well, the meltdown continues as we get closer to the conclave because this photo has now gone viral. And this is Matt Walsh, and I like Matt Walsh a lot, and Matt Walsh puts this in great perspective. And I'm going to read some of it to you because this is, if you have a friend today that jokingly passes this meme around, and somebody says, oh, my God, I can't believe that is so offensive. I'm so offended by it. First of all, shut your pie hole. That's what you tell. If somebody asks you, are you so offended? Tell them to shut their pie hole because there's no need to act or feign that you're all hurt and offended on here. Don't even act that way. Stop it. But let me read a little bit of what Matt Walsh wrote because I think he puts it in great perspective about the hyperactivity of our news system today and how the world seems to overreact. He says, one way to tell that things are going pretty well in a presidential administration is by looking at how dumb the controversies are. If the opposition party is pretending to be upset about something that doesn't matter, then it's a pretty good sign that everything is running smoothly. And by that metric, at least, the second Trump administration is currently in the running of the smoothest running administration in the history of the country. That's because over the last several days, Democrats have gone out of their mind and gone on the warpath, not over any White House policy or at any kind of real world development, no, but instead an AI generated meme featuring the likeness of the president of the United States dressed as the Pope. It's kind of like the thing that any AI program could spit out in 5 seconds. As a lifelong practicing Catholic myself, says Matt Walsh, I found the meme totally benign. It's not unusual. It's not especially funny, but it's not offensive or sacrilegious either. It's not even mocking the Pope. Trump isn't dressed as Pope Francis. He's just dressed as a Pope. If anything, it's a self-deprecating humor at Trump's expense. But somehow the harmless image was managed to instantly transform Democrats into card-carrying traditional Catholics. That some people who champion the same people who champion the murder and mutilation of children have overnight become Orthodox Catholics obsessed with enforcing reverence for papal imagery. Suddenly, the part of drag queens dressed as nuns and abortion on demand it is full of people who now seem to want to go to the Latin Mass. Despite all the bloviating and the faux outrage, there is nothing in the church or scripture that prohibits making a harmless joke about the Pope. In fact, in my experience, actual conservative Catholics tend to have a darker and more morbid sense of humor, and that's fine. What's not fine is pretending to be Catholic while denouncing every pillars of the faith, as Democrats do routinely. If anyone is guilty of sacrilege, it's the people posting. It's not the people posting the memes. It's those people that, well, as he has astutely stated, it's those people that have feigned offense and pretended to be traditional Catholics while making sure you have abortion on demand. So anyway, for all of your leftist friends out there that are asking you, are you offended? Are you offended? I think I'm more offended that you want late-term abortion. I think I'm more offended that you're okay with sucking a baby out on the day that it's born and calling that a mother's choice. That's what I'm offended by. And I personally believe, I'm not the God Almighty, but I personally believe when I stand before the Lord Almighty and it all comes out to air, I think a Halloween costume or an AI generation. It wasn't even President Trump. It's an AI generation. It's not even him dressing up, but I'm thinking a Halloween costume of dressed like Jesus or dressed like the Pope is probably less offensive than some of the policies of the modern day liberals out there. So just throw that out there. Read the Matt Walsh piece. It's really interesting. And if anybody acts offended today about the memes that are that are circulating out there with Donald Trump, Trump just retweeted it. I thought it was funny, and I think all of us can think it's funny as well. All right, one of the questions I want to get to, a question of the day for the day, is there's a poll out there that says it's a U.S. News and World Report story about the very best state that you could live in. U.S. News and World Report is ranking its annual best states based on things like education and the economy. What would you say is the top state when it comes to education, healthcare, infrastructure, and the economy? The number one state for the third straight year is Utah. The worst state this year when it comes to education, healthcare, infrastructure, and economy, it's Louisiana. Utah for the third straight year. Utah tops the list, mostly because it lands in the top 10 in 5 categories. It's first when it comes to fiscal stability, third in both economy and infrastructure. It's fourth in the nation in education, seventh best in crime. It's 48th in the natural environment, and so it comes in first place for the third year in a row. New Hampshire is second, followed by Idaho, followed by Minnesota, followed by Nebraska, Florida, Vermont, South Dakota, Massachusetts, and then Washington. The worst state, as I mentioned, is Louisiana. And again, the measurements are education, the economy, healthcare, and infrastructure. Louisiana, Alaska is the second most, followed by Mississippi, New Mexico, West Virginia, and Alabama. And so U.S. News and World Report has ranked the best states and the worst states. And guess what? Utah is number one for the third year, and Louisiana is the worst this year. Where does your state fall in the rankings? Well, if it's not the top 10, I haven't mentioned it. Colorado comes in at number 11. But we're very high on the crime. The crime is really bad here, according to U.S. News and World Report, which we've been talking about. Education is pretty crappy. We get knocked down on also opportunity as well. So it's fascinating to look at the numbers, but U.S. News and World Report put out the top states. And it brings us to the question of the day. Because a lot of you live in a state, and you live in a state for a reason. You live there because you were raised there. You live there because your parents are there. You live there because your kids are there. You were born there, you moved there, and now you have roots there. And maybe you've often thought, let me hit the mute button here for a second. I've still got this lingering allergy thing with the weather changing as it is every day in Colorado. It's getting better, but not going away as quick as I want. So most of us live in a state we live there because we maybe got relocated there, maybe because you were born there, maybe because you had kids there. And now you feel maybe in a state that if you had a choice, you would live somewhere else. If you really could move somewhere, some of you I know a lot of friends who would love to move out of the state of Colorado because it's gone to hell in a handbasket. But they say, my friends are all here. I've been here my adult life. My kids are here. My grandkids are here. I'm not going to leave the state of Colorado. Let me ask you, if all of that stuff was set aside and you could magically create a situation and live anywhere you want, any state, any nation, let's start with the states. If you could live in any state, and I'm not talking about you have to leave your kids behind. No, everybody's going to go. You're going to live there. You're going to transform your life, and you'll live there. Where would you live? If you could live anywhere you want, where would you live? And my answer is, I don't know. I've often said that I will soon spend part of my years in part of my year in Rwanda. More and more, I'll do more of that. But as far as full-time living, home base here in America, I don't know where it'd be. I'm just asking you, where would you live if you could live anywhere you want? How many of you would say that the place you live now, talk about the state or the city you live in, is the exact place that of all the options in the world, you would not move, you would love it right where you're at? Is anybody out there that's totally that content? Now, Dave says he would live in Texas. If I see him popping up in the chat room there, Dave said he would live in Texas if he had the choice. I've lived in Texas. I've been back to Texas a lot the last couple of months. And even though it's my technical home, I don't have any ties there. People ask me, would you ever move back to Texas? And I'm like, I would. I love the restaurants. I love the roads, the infrastructure, the cost of living, the cost of housing. It's all fantastic. I don't have any ties in Texas. I moved to Colorado shortly after college. And so all of my adulthood friends are pretty much in Colorado. So I have no ties in Texas, even though I love the idea of Texas. I don't have anything taking me there. But if I could take all my friends and everybody and we all move somewhere, I'm not sure Texas is it. I don't know. Where would you move? If you could live anywhere else besides where you live, where would you live? How did you move to Utah? It is ranked by USA Today and World Report as the #1 state out there. It's very big up there. It's very top, and it's up there. So that's why everybody comment in the chat room. Where would you live if you could live anywhere in the world, anywhere in America? Where would you live at? Let us know exactly where that would be, and we'll see if we find a consensus among the Lakey listeners. I was talking to my friend Patrick the other day, and I've actually contemplated one day if I'm living part-time, let's say in Africa, and have a home base here. I've actually, I know I'm not a gambler, but I've actually thought about getting a very nice little condo or apartment somewhere high above the Strip in Las Vegas. Not that I gamble, but I'm not an isolationist. I got a friend that loves to go up to his house in Aspen, and he's like a recluse, and he can go days without human contact. I'm sorry, that is a trigger for my anxiety. Not going to happen. I like to see the hustle and bustle. I'll go to my own little private enclave and oasis, but if I want to get out and about, I need to move around. So I've thought about Vegas would be one of those places that I think I could live. I know you say it's hot in the summer, but I'd spend the rest of the year somewhere else. All right, if you could live somewhere else, everybody give us a thought. Where would you live if you could choose any place on the planet to live? Love to hear from you on said topic. Now, we've talked a lot on this show about the state of Colorado and how Colorado has gone to hell in a handbasket. And many of you that listen throughout the day are Colorado-centric. You are, I think I just froze on the screen. I hope we'll be all right out there. This is a piece that's in the Sunday Gazette. And it's a perspective piece from the Gazette. I believe it comes from a person named Blaine Robin Francis. It just says Sunday Perspective Gazette. And this is Colorado's report card. This is why Colorado's not in the top 10. This is why people like Laura Carno and I consistently warn you about Colorado and Jared Polis and the merry band of radical, liberal, communist Democrats that have run this state. Colorado's report card. Economy. Long ranked among the top 5 states for economic performance, Colorado has dropped to the bottom and out of the bottom 10 on economic by 2024. That's what happens when Democrats like Jared Polis run your state. Personal income growth has fallen from the 3rd in the country to the 39th in the country. That's just in the years of Jared Polis being the governor. Do you hear that? Personal income fell from being the 3rd best in the country to the 39th best in the country just between 2018 and 2024. But despite being some of the world's highest mandated minimum wage. So we have the nation's highest mandated minimum wage, and we're still 39th when it comes to personal income growth in the country. Housing ranks among the 5th least affordable states for housing in the nation. The 5th least affordable states in the nation. Regulation, the state ranks as the 6th most regulated state in the United States, corresponding with the slower business growth and innovation. Inflation. Colorado has experienced some of the highest inflation rates in the country leading into 2025. Colorado has outpaced national averages with consumer prices 15.4% higher today than in 2021. Energy. With Senate Bill 18 in 2019, Colorado has obstructed energy production, a major Colorado export, at the expense of the state's economy. It goes on. I have a whole list of the report card. And so as you look at the 50 best states, Colorado has dropped out of the top 10 in almost, every category, I think. We're pretty much gone to hell in a handbasket. And if you could live anywhere, where would you live? Now, Bradley just said this. I still live in Weld County. I just wish it was part of Wyoming. So he would still live there, but still love it. But he loves where he lives, but it's not the state. He's going to stay there, which is part of Wyoming. Weld County, if you're out of Colorado, is a very large county. A lot of agriculture, but it's also directly connected on the borders to the Denver metro area. So part of it is metro and part of it's agriculture, a very large county. And it also stretches way up to the Wyoming border. And a lot of folks, there has been a move afoot in Colorado for years for Weld County to become Weld, Wyoming, and get annexed. And it's never gotten anywhere. It's always been talked about, but that's what Brad's talking about there. All right, question of the day. If you could live anywhere in America, where would you live? Would it be Would it be in Wyoming? Would it be in Utah, which is ranked the #1 state? How many of you outside of Colorado have said, man, I'd live to Colorado? That used to be a lot of people wanted to move to Colorado. But I give you these numbers, and I've got a whole page of it. Colorado fell from ready for this? Under Jared Polis, Colorado has fallen from a top 10 state for immigration to a bottom 10. So when Jared Polis first became the governor, we were one of the top 10 states in the nation that people wanted to move to. Once Jared Polis became the governor, since then, we're one of the bottom 10 of people where people want to move to. That's how bad it's gotten under our feckless, failed governor. Let there be no mistake. Anybody who tells you that Jared Polis has been good for the state of Colorado is either an idiot, a retarded person, or just a jackass. There's no way to do it. Overdose drugs deaths in Colorado under Jared Polis have rose from 17.4 for every 100,000 residents to 30 for 100,000 residents. It's basically, there's been a 72.4% increase in overdose deaths, corresponding with a decriminalization of illicit drugs. Colorado has the second highest rate of teen fentanyl overdoses in the country. Did you hear that? Second highest rate of teen fentanyl poisonings in the nation happened right here. So it has become a crazy state. And now you recognize when you say, well, I thought Colorado would be one of the best states in the nation. Oh, here's another state under Jared Polis. I'll let him stand before God on this one. The Colorado Department of Health and Environment reports that abortions under Jared Polis have increased. 65.5% increase in abortions. Now, Jared Polis and the legislature did sign legislation hoping to make this a tourist destination for women seeking abortions. And it looks like they have done that. There's 65.5% more children being killed in abortion clinics than there were before Jared Polis became in the governor's mansion. Birth rates have been in decline in Colorado. It correlates with rising crime in the state's education reduction in various livability factors. People are just saying we can't afford kids here. And we don't have any schools to send them to that are worth a crap. The Democrats are constantly wanting to take away my rights to even make sure that my child is identified as a boy or girl. And so the birth rate in Colorado has declined. So anyway, Colorado's report card. I'm going to dive into more of this tomorrow. I think it's just important for all of us to recognize the foolishness of Jared Polis and the merry band of Democrats. And as your Democrats now gavel out of session today and head back into their districts, if they're a Democrat, you need to let them know how they have failed Colorado. You need to let them know what feckless failures they are and how radical communistic they have become. And just look at the stats of Colorado and see if they can defend any of these things, because it's all true. People are moving out of the state. Babies aren't being born. People aren't having kids, and education is not in good state. But other than that, welcome to the beautiful state of Colorado. I sent producer Chad. We'll give this up in the next day or so. I don't know if it's today. When you come into Colorado, there's a sign that says "Welcome to Colorful Colorado." There's one. I don't know. I don't know if I send it to producer Chad. We'll get it up. Oh, this is it. Producer Chad, I'm going to go ahead and put this up. There it is. Welcome to Colorful Colorado. This is from the Larimer County GOP. Demonic dystopian hellscape. We got to dive into these numbers. These are really numbers that are in the Gazette that just show how far Colorado has fallen under the leadership of Jared Polis. So I thought that was great. Larimer GOP put that up, and good for them. I kind of blew the cover. I forgot. I was just yapping. I forgot that I sent it over to producer Chad. So that's Colorado under Jared Polis. Jared, yeah, it's hard to screw something up as bad as Jared has screwed that up. But he's done a good job of it, hasn't he? And he's got a whole bunch of jackasses down at the state capitol that are prolific and complicit with him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you. The 7th day of May, year of our Lord, 2025. Put that aside, and I want to get back to this report card for Colorado and dive into this more tomorrow, because it really is telling that Jared Polis has done a lot of damage to this state and a lot of damage to people's futures, and he's destroyed. You look at the lockdowns he did and costing kids scholarships and canceling sports for a season. He's cost kids college education. But Jared doesn't care as long as Marlon's happy, I guess. All right. Utah. I wouldn't have thought it was Utah, though. Have I been to Utah? Somebody asked. Yes, I transferred planes in Salt Lake City. I've not spent much time in Utah. I don't think outside of airport. I drove through Utah one time, twice. I stayed in Salt Lake City. I did, because I was We had a place in California, Northern California, and we had our house here, but I had to get a car out there. So I drove a car back and forth. I have been in, but I just drove through. I left the Denver area, stayed in Salt Lake for the night, then drove into the Bay Area the next day. So I have been there, but I haven't spent a lot of time there. I haven't done touring things. I've done driving things. Ladies and gentlemen, he's been in Europe doing the touring thing. He's back with us this morning. His name is Steve Laffey. He joins us at stevelaffey.com. Steve Laffey, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Jimmy, I wish I had tuned in early. I was so busy, but that is a complete F on Colorado. Thank you for doing this, and I'm going to tune in tomorrow for more of that. But anyway, it's great to be back. I can't believe I was in just bad sections on Wednesdays, and I could tell you more about Europe. It's really maybe, I don't know, with the dollar getting so weak, and maybe it won't be my last trip. I have more kids going, but really it was a good trip.
It looked like fun. I saw the photos, and Stephen Jr., who just turned 17, he's almost done with his master's degree, I read.
And his master's isn't in sociology, folks. My son is the youngest graduate in the history of Colorado State University at 16. And by the time before he gets to be 18 at 17, he would receive his master's in advanced econometrics in mathematics. One of the top
econometrics. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's really economics and math, high math. And even though I took a lot of math and that I get my PhD in economics, it's now beyond me what he's doing. The proofs I'm looking at, beyond me.
Wow. Good for Stephen Jr. So does he know what he wants to do with all this? He's going to be young and he's going to have a master's degree. Has he made a career choice?
Well, I think we'll look at getting a PhD in either math at one of the top 10 schools or economics. Hopefully, University of Chicago, MIT. So math and economics, unfortunately, have come together because in the economic profession, all they do is put out basically things you can't read and don't make a lot of difference. It used to be that they put out things when Milton Friedman was around about, history and what happened in the Great Depression. Now it's just these mathematical formulas. So he'll get one of those and then maybe head over to Rodeo Drive to work at a venture capital place, associating himself with Stanford at the age of 21 or something. He's really a true protege. In the real sense of the word. So we're very blessed, and we thank God for it every day that he's doing.
Let me ask you, as a parent that since your kid, you obviously had to trust CSU. He's over in Europe getting this econometrics degree. He's going to. You ever worry that they're going to indoctrinate him to have a different worldview than what the Laffey family stands for? He's going to have some strange view on economics as opposed to what their best view is?
No, because I don't let the kids leave until they've been homeschooled by me. And even the 5 kids who went to Colorado State University, two will graduate next week. One with a 4.0 average on her way to Rwanda in the Peace Corps, and will come visit you before she goes to law school. She's a true, and one over to Paris and Lyon to get her advanced degree in hospitality management, the 4th best place in the world. But the answer is no. With the 5 that actually been raised in this house through 4-H, through church, they don't leave. And another thing about education, and I tell this to people all the time, we talk, but my kids don't stay at CSU in a dorm.
Yeah.
They're home. We live here because they come home every night. And as I always tell people, college is the new high school, and not everybody should go to college. A whole nother discussion we could have, but no, I don't really worry about it. And I wouldn't have let him go if I was. But at 17, I tell you, it was really dramatic for me to be playing ping pong and pool in a dorm of all graduate students and watch people who are 23, 24, 25 on average, walking by, high-fiving Stephen, saying hello to me, and they're from Moldova, they're from Bulgaria, they're from Romania, and they're all appropriate. They're all working, and they all know he doesn't drink and doesn't smoke, and he goes to church, and they all respect it so far. So I've been just highly impressed with Tilburg in the Netherlands and the way they do things. One quick fact so people know about how you just can't go to the Netherlands. Think of other countries and what they do with immigration and so forth. That's not a great choice for Europe. But when it comes to education, if you go to send your kid to the school in the Netherlands, Jimmy, not only do you send the full tuition payment before they go, you send them 14,000 euros extra just to prove you have enough money to stay there for a year. Then they send, after he matriculates, they send back the 14,000 euros. You have to prove you can't be on welfare walking around getting food stamps. I liked it, actually. So anyway.
Yeah, what a concept. What a concept. All right, speaking of schools and education, you graduated from Harvard. You often say it was a business school. That's different than the rest of the campus. The last week or so, these Ivy League schools, Columbia's come under attack. You start the anti-Semitism that's happened there.
Yeah.
And then President Trump last week said, Harvard, we're going to take your tax exempt status away. Give me your thoughts on this. I still wonder why these Ivy League schools with billions of dollars of endowments are getting any government money for research or whatever. But give me your thoughts on Harvard and the tax exempt status and the battle with Trump.
Well, it goes back to the same problem with Donald Trump. I agree with going after Harvard for a lot of things. My alma mater from business school, across the river, have nothing to do with those clowns on the other side. So I said, we've been saying this for 12 years, right? Whatever. Yeah. But I will say this, and I say this every time about President Trump. This is a good thing to go after, but he goes at it in a lazy way. It'd be far better to attack the 501c3 status in the tax code and go after that for everybody. Let me give you some examples. For example, it's not just, and I would have it this way. And I would make the number up again. We could change the number, but it is not a nonprofit when the chief executive officer or anybody makes more than, pick a number, $250,000. Something, even if it's a giant organization, people at nonprofits should be doing stuff. Nonprofits, all of these nonprofits, not all of them, there are many great ones like the one you run, but many of them are just very, very profitable. Do you want me to give you some examples? All right. So
because this tweaks me so much, because I'm sitting here, we're milking 2 pennies together and trying to turn it into a dime of our nonprofit. And then I see these nonprofits that people just pour billions of dollars into, and you're like, you do realize that a lot of it's not going to the ground floor. It's going to those executive salaries.
Yeah. So look at Christus Health. These are health companies. The CEO makes $16 million. Nonprofit. Star One Credit Union, nonprofit, $12 million for the CEO, Mr. Hellebrand. New York Presbyterian Hospital, nonprofit, $12 million for the CEO. The head of the PGA, now to get away from hospitals, makes $16 million. So these are things that if you want to be a nonprofit, you go to the tax code, Mr. President, change the rules. And how do you change them? By the way, back to PGA, Jay Monahan, I was wrong. He made $23 million last year. But just legislate explicit pay ratios. If you want to be more lenient than me, make it less than 0.1% to make it a ratio of the lowest paid person. Like the highest paid person at a nonprofit can make 3 times the lowest paid person. So at that hospital, the lowest paid person probably makes, let's say at the hospital, it's 50 grand. I'm making this up. I'm a full-time employer, right? Then the top guy makes 150. That would strengthen the IRS enforcement. The word reasonableness needs to be changed to something else, right? A stricter benchmark when it comes to pay. How about excise taxes on salaries above the threshold, right? If you want to make it nonprofit. So if you don't want to take away the nonprofit status, but that would apply to, and I know people won't like this because I'm conservative and a Christian, large churches. They seem to be very profitable. Some of these mega churches, right? Universities, healthcare companies, some of the ones I just mentioned. And there's hundreds and hundreds of these things, Jimmy, that are totally abusing the system. You want tax revenue? Change this law at the federal level, and it will be over for these people. And once again, don't do what Donald Trump did on even China when I've been trying to stop trading with them. You got to get people time. You got to give people time to get that stuff from the ship. They're working. They're selling a $400 item on Amazon. You got to give them a year to get out. You got to give Apple 2 years to get out. These kind of things you and I've been talking about. You can't do it overnight. So, but this is the problem. Who is actually going to the federal government and changing the law? Because once Trump's gone, go back to these people are ripping us off at these hospitals, and we know it in a myriad of ways. But one of the ways is calling themselves a nonprofit.
It is true, and I'm guessing that the reason that the Congress or whoever doesn't go in and change the tax code is because, again, had the K Street lobbyist again saying, we can pick on Harvard, but don't pick on the hospital. I mean, come on, that's not very nice.
And this is why, again, a very controversial thing to your audience. Trump is the inside guy. I'm the outside guy that I want in there. These are the things. This is the giant difference between someone like me who ran for president and got nowhere would do. This kind of stuff would end it. Why do you think, folks, that the tax code's not really being changed? It doesn't favor the middle class. It favors really rich people. So you're going to see even more things to confuse you. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. All these things are preposterous, by the way. But you're going to see things like that rather than a fair tax, a flat tax, or what I've always espoused since I met Herman Cain, his 999 plan, which is half a fair tax, half a flat tax. Now it has to be, of course, 12, 12, 12. But going after the real problem, this is the real problem. It is Harvard. They suck. They are anti-Semites, right? Don't get me wrong. But the problem is bigger, and it'd be easy. We could change 3 lines in the 501c3 tax code, and we would be like this, Jimmy, and you would still be a nonprofit, I dare say.
I'd still be a nonprofit. You know what the CEO of Rivers Promise makes? $0. That's me. $0. That's why I do this show, and that's why I do other things, because I don't make any money off the nonprofit. All right, let's switch gears. There's an announcement that that President that they're going to meet with China over the weekend to talk about a meeting with China. So I guess there's progress there. But you sent me a headline. I found this interesting because whether you think the tariffs are a negotiation thing or the tariffs are good or bad, all that said, this headline kind of bothered me. As U.S. turns its back on free trade, other countries double down. Explain that to me. Has U.S. turned its back on free trade? I don't think we've ever had free trade, have we? We're trying to get more fair trade. Explain that. Help me reconcile the difference between free trade, fair trade, and where we're going now.
Well, where we're going now with China, if it stays the way it is what we call autarky, which is an economic term that is, think of North Korea. They don't trade with anybody, basically, and they eat grass. So that 150% tariffs on each side means that it's too high for people to send anything.
Yeah. We're
obviously not going to do that very long. Something's going to happen. Free trade, do we ever really have total free trade, even with a North American Free Trade Alliance or the one called USMCA, which is, I call it NAFTA too, so people understand it, that Trump redid in 2019. It isn't total free trade. It isn't like every single thing, because every country has a problem. In Quebec, in Canada, they have a problem with the people who produce milk, cow farmers. So again, Trump and his people have lied about what that is. I won't bother you with it today. And we have a problem with soybean producers who are very strong politically, and corn growers who still put ethanol in our cars. Woo! Who thought that up, right?
Yeah.
But that's political. So we do the best we can. The bigger point is what I talked about a month ago or 2 months ago with you all. And that is what we call the elasticity of supply, how people are going to look Donald Trump in the eye from other countries, whether it's the new leader of Canada, who he helped elect, and we would have preferred a conservative, but who will say yes, yes, yes. And then the England guy will come over, Mr. Carney, and say, yes, why don't you meet with the king? And he'll say, great, I love that guy. I'm going to meet with the king. Meanwhile, the people who we've been trading with are saying, how do we get this aluminum in Canada to other countries and never send it to America to make some money? And what the UK and India just did, remember, India was a colony, right? So think about, there's still a great deal of hatred that goes back and forth between, if you're a former colony of the United Kingdom, of what happened over those long periods of time. So it's not going to be free trade, but the people in the UK, while smiling at the US and India smile at the US, are now taking the 5th biggest economy in the world and the 6th biggest economy in the world and putting together a free trade agreement, bypassing America. And so what does that mean? Not total free trade, right? Because, for example, Scotch whiskey and gin, tariffs will be reduced from 150% to 75% initially, and then to 40% by the 10th year, right? So how about things like textiles and apparel, which a lot of it's done in India, right? So tariffs will be eliminated, providing a boost to India's substantial garment industry. That's going to hurt somebody in the UK who's still making a garment. We get it. But on the flip side, there's going to be automobiles made by whoever they make them by, right, are going to be going back and forth. They're going down. So they didn't turn it into total unfettered free trade. But the real problem, if you see 3 more of these, what is happening, say it's India and Australia, this is really a way to bypass America. And here's the other part of the whole equation. The more you get to free trade without trading with countries who want to destroy you and build up their military and nuclear weapons to destroy you, which is China, the better you get stuff. Cheaper, faster, better. Plus, people get to concentrate on what they're better at. The ultimate example is somewhere across the equator, within 20% of the equator, they grow coffee. We don't.
Yeah.
So we can't really put tariffs on coffee leaving our country. We don't grow any.
We don't grow any.
And if indeed all the people in the middle of the world at the equator want to grow coffee and bananas, they don't make semiconductors, which we can. So a better structural thing for Trump to have done, except that he's lazy, is to strategically gut with our allies, Figure out some better free trade that brings more manufacturing of high-end carburetors that they make in a Porsche. Bring that back to America because we have high-end workers, right? Don't worry about the T-shirts. Move them to Vietnam. I really, seriously, right? But instead, he's going after everybody. And by going after everybody, he's losing because of what's happening now with the UK and India, smiling at America and doing a trade themselves, which is going to hurt America.
Yeah.
Hurt people in America.
If you're listening to this podcast, now that we're a podcast, this airs later on iHeart, it airs later on Spotify. The voice you hear is Steve Laffey. If you're not seeing it, obviously you don't know who that is. SteveLaffey.com is his website, SteveLaffey.com. Steve, got about 60 seconds. I had a friend the other day say, what does this trade deficit matter? Who cares if we're sending less of our stuff over there as long as we're getting their cheap stuff? And I said, it's nice that they would open up some of their markets to some of our stuff, but that just shows the disconnect. People don't understand a trade deficit. Who cares? I get my stuff at Walmart. We're really illiterate when it comes to all this stuff as an average person.
To sum it up, a trade deficit with everybody around the world does lower our GDP. The reason America doesn't have to care that much about it, except with communist China, is that we have the world's reserve currency, so they want to take our dollars, right? So as long as that's true and we don't abuse the dollar, which we are, and the gig is over, it's another story for another day, then we benefit in many ways, and we shouldn't calculate every single trade deficit with every single country like Trump does. It makes no sense at all. In a sense, the laws of comparative advantage, but also there are goods and there are services. He's focused on goods. Remember, we have massive trade surpluses with Microsoft and other countries. That's services, right? So we got to go on more than 60 seconds, but by specific country, it's not that big of a deal. With China, it's a giant problem. And they, by the way, being an autocrat, being a dictatorship, they can outlast Trump.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Steve, I appreciate it. We're going to dive into this. It was fascinating. Yeah. Good talking. Karen's popped in there. She says, Trump is lazy. The man never sleeps. Not talking about whether he sleeps or not. It's about whether he thinks through all these ideas and progress and puts them in a bigger package as opposed to just kind of shooting out the car window.
He's not lazy. He gets up early. He works late. I'm not saying lazy. He's not sitting around smoking, cigarettes and having a quart of brew. He doesn't hi, we share one thing. We've never had a drink in our life. But lazy about is getting this legislation passed to improve lives for people for 20 years, not him just saying, I'm changing my mind every day. Yeah.
Steve Laffey, God bless you, my friends. Welcome back to America. Glad to have you here, Steve Laffey. Yeah, the lazy, not a literal word, it's figurative in the fact that there's a lot of folks that think we should have thought that through a little bit better. And I don't think it's as bad as the first term where it's just a policy was announced every morning on the Twitter. But you do have a little bit up and down. People call that a little fluctuation. It's not as bad as it was. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, somebody has passed away. We're going to do meme roulette. Skype. Remember Skype? Skype is officially dead. If you remember Skype, I think we all moved to Zoom, but Microsoft killed it off this week in an effort to move everybody to their Microsoft Teams platform. So all of you who, like me, I had to look up, I still have Skype on my phone. Haven't used it in years. Skype has passed away age of 22. So Skype, may you rest in peace. Skype is dead. We'll talk more about that tomorrow because it's fascinating to watch how technology like Skype that was so revolutionary for a while is now defunct, has now been outdated, has moved on, and it's moving very, very quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end the show on time today. I've got other things I must accomplish. Producer Chad and I have a video shoot a little bit later on for promoting our casino night coming up May 17th. Get registered for that, if you will. Get registered for that, please, por favor. I would appreciate it. I would appreciate that as well. Also, don't forget Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. If you're looking to sell, looking to buy, looking for a conversation about a real estate transaction, maybe you're just not exactly sure if it's the right time. Maybe it's not sure even what price you can get. Maybe you're not sure if you should put some money in to remodel or update your home before you sell it. Are you going to return? You just got questions out there. You want to ask somebody that you can trust, somebody that's not going to twist your arm or somebody that just views real estate as if you do it right, man, this is generational wealth. This is going to change the life of you, your kids, your grandkids, if you do this right. That's Sherry Cree. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Anywhere from Castle Rock to Windsor, that I-25 corridor from Broomfield to Boulder. She wants to help you sell that home, buy that home, have a conversation. Maybe you're not ready to put a sign in your yard, and she can help you with that as well. She's had people talk to her, and a year or so later call her and say, okay, now we're ready. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Make sure you tell her that Jimmy Lakey is talking about her on the radio. Homeswithsherry.com. You've been thinking of buying, thinking of selling. And don't forget, she'll give a portion of her compensation closing to the charity of your choice. Just because she wants to be a blessing to not just you, but to all those great charities that you support as well. Homeswithsherry.com, Sherry Cream. Ladies and gentlemen, meme roulette. We got to get out of here on the studio on time. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Right there on the screen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez appears. Am I stupid because I'm socialist? Or am I a socialist because I'm stupid? You contemplate that one, Alexandria. Pour yourself a drink at the bar, you barmaid, and see if you can figure that out. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Remember when having no symptoms was one of the symptoms? I'm telling you, I'm going to always pull these COVID things back up. I think you just got to remember the stupidity of that moment in time that people like Jared Polis and these jackasses Dr. Fauci led us through. Remember, you don't have symptoms. Well, that may mean you have symptoms. Yeah, these people are idiots. They're liars, and I hope that some prosecutions happen real soon. Round and round the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is from the Babylon Bee. Corporal Klinger finally has been discharged from the Army after the military trans ban. That's, of course, the Supreme Court said that President Trump does have the right to ban the trans from the military. So Corporal Klinger is finally out of there. Bye-bye, Corporal. Round and round the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. The stolen meme section of the show. When teachers fight to keep drag queens in school and the Bible out of school, you need new teachers and new politicians as well. Jared, round and round the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I think we milked the meme machine dry, ladies and gentlemen. It's all dry. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, we're going to be back here and dive more to this Colorado report card. Continue to talk about, you got some more technology stories. Do you have one of the toughest jobs in America? And do we have a pope by this time tomorrow? I don't know. Not sure if we will, but if we do, we will let you know. We'll talk about it bright and early tomorrow morning. Hey, don't forget, sign up for our casino gala. It's coming up, Rivers Promise. Love to have you sign up. It's May 17th, just a little over a week away. Producer Chad and I will be at the venue here in just a little bit. Checking things out, getting ready for next Saturday. If you haven't registered, please go register. Casino Gala, price goes up, I think, in 2 days, 1 day. Casino Gala, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. I'll see you May 17th. Until we meet tomorrow, God bless you, God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow.